In recent years, I've expressed my experiences and observations about life and this reality I found suspicious and concerning to friends and people I know personally. I expressed how, no matter what I've accomplished or level of living standards I've achieved, something just doesn't feel right, and why happiness isn't my constant state, but rather a continual looming sense of something is fundamentally off, and the realization that even the things and relationships I possess are fragile at best and require continual time, effort, and mental maintenance to not fall apart before inevitably ending altogether, one way or another, over the course of time and entropy. A few friends would agree and express having similar feelings about their state of life. But even they, as well as others who didn't relate to what I was saying, would often say things like, quote, at least your situation isn't bad, and there are many people who have it way worse, unquote. For them, this was sort of a way to emphasize why I should have a sense of gratitude and why I should be accepting or even content with this reality. But in actuality, the fact I'm reminded that many, if not most people, have it way worse than myself only confirmed to me that something is fundamentally wrong or, at the very least, capricious about this reality. While their intent was for me to feel grateful and think more positively, it was more so to distract me from the design of this realm. But it made me even more aware that not only could they not provide any real solutions, but they accepted suffering as quote unquote normal and found some contentment as long as they're not suffering as bad as others. The fact that someone else's worst state of existence is a sort of manufactured gratitude and even joy for a lot of people about this realm, I began to find more and more abhorrent, though with measured sympathy because I understood it was mostly their cope to keep going. Well, for most people. And let me make it clear, I was not in a quote unquote negative mindset when sharing these observations. I simply wanted to see if others saw the same and had real solutions to the situation. But everything they came up with pertained to distraction and feeling in a more superior state than others to cope and keep going. Also, keep in mind, I don't think most, if any of these people I've personally heard these things from were psychopaths or empathy deficient. But for me, doing personally better than others was no solace and made the dire nature of the situation even more clear to me. My rough analogy is an inmate in a prison and having more amenities and access to things than the rest of the prisoners. No matter how many cigarettes, good food, decorations on their cell walls, and conjugal visits they're privileged to get, or even how much positive thinking they apply to keep going, none of that will change the fact that they're in a prison like everyone else in it. And there's still a reality beyond the confines and heavily restricted rules and limitations of that prison they'll feel compelled or even desperate to experience. The rich, the poor, and even the most privileged find themselves in this existence and face unavoidable degrees of suffering. I could be a billionaire on my private jet, full of supermodels, on my way to collect a Nobel Peace Prize, and I would still know I'm not in an ideal realm with a design in the best interest of everyone and everything in it. Sickness, old age, loss of loved ones, disappointment, heartbreak, and death are almost all but inevitable. While we have bodies and psyches with needs and urges that keep us actively serving them. And for many, they can feel the weight of this reality at varying points throughout their lives. sometimes through dreams or just sitting in thought. Maybe certain events and memories can trigger it, and anxiety or even panic can overwhelm some people during these times. Oftentimes, these conversations can become philosophical or ontological to varying degrees. Some people express their quote-unquote love and gratefulness to nature, the universe, or a god of their belief. But as I like to say, what else is left for them to say or do, especially when distraction is their main mechanism to cope with a reality designed with so many causal forces and situations beyond their control and quote-unquote free will or awareness, instead of facing uncomfortable truths that could help them realize this is a reality to overcome and can be overcome, but denial is the least likely way to overcoming anything. Just knowing something is wrong and what can happen in any given moment can help protect and even work a lot of issues out, seemingly on its own in certain situations. And back to someone quote unquote loving their God. Do they really? Or is fear or favor the motive for their praises? A thought experiment is to imagine the God you believe in is the creator of this existence, but somehow lost its powers afterwards and can no longer hurt or benefit you, no more than a homeless person you pass on the street. Would you still feel compelled to quote unquote love and even praise this God? Would you have critiques and even admonishments for it? Of course, this question requires a lot of self-searching and intellectual honesty to answer honestly. But luckily, it's an answer you can keep to yourself. We live in a world where nature itself can slap around who it seemingly chooses, where someone can walk for hundreds of miles in any direction and not find food, sustenance, or even a favorable environment against the elements and predators. In a system designed to make conflict and suffering unavoidable, till even if you were to find a solution or a cure for a situation or a disease that's been plaguing society and humanity for millennia, some other problem or disease will spring up in their place, creating similar issues as the ones prior, leaving humanity in a constant state of plugging holes in a dike, where more holes keep appearing for one reason or another. A world where more and more people are against birthing more children, and some are becoming anti-natalists altogether to avoid the weight and guilt of birthing life into a world of struggle, not just because of economic and societal situations, but against subjecting their would-be child to the struggles of dealing with nature itself, where whatever reward can be gained from it just isn't worth the experience they might consider inhumane. When it's already an against the odds gamble if one's child will live a life they'll find overall pleasing or not, in a world we don't understand. In an existence where even if one gets to experience their idea of quote-unquote heaven, they'll still have to make themselves happy and content knowing there are many more people experiencing quote-unquote hell. Given enough thought in depth, whether you believe in nature or a creator God or in the universe itself, the question of whether they're helping us survive or we simply find ourselves surviving them or it could very well be the more poignant inquiry.